This is the video for activity number 14 in the Level 1 Electronics series. And this is basically the world's worst flashlight. To get this activity and all of the others in Level 1, visit jb.works and enter the TMT code at the bottom of your screen. The purpose of this activity is to basically start illustrating how capacitors work. So here what we have is a circuit whereby if I press the left-hand button, it will charge the capacitor on the top. And now I'm going to turn the jackboard off, so there's no power whatsoever going to the top. And I'm going to press the right-hand button. And you can see the light went on and is still on just a wee bit. And that's our torch. So essentially, it's a very short-lived, very dim torch, but nonetheless, the capacitor is being charged and storing energy when I press this button, and then it is discharging or releasing the energy into the LED when I push the other button. And of course, there's no power being provided from anywhere else. And if I want to recharge the torch, I have to turn the jackboard back on. Now I can press the charge button, which is the one on the left here, and let it charge up. And now I press the torch button and it turns on, ever so briefly, and now it's slowly starting to fade away. For this activity, you'll need a charged jackboard, a jackboard top, and 12 female short jumper wires. Now this is the circuit of our torch. So we'll start with the 3-volt supply, which is here. And that's fed into button 1, which is this button right here. And what that's doing is via a 1K resistor, it's heading towards the block where it's joined with 2 other wires, and one of them goes down to a capacitor. Now remember, in some earlier lessons we basically mentioned that the capacitor's job is to store charge, and so in our case the capacitor is right here. And then we go to ground. So when I turn the power on and I press the button, I'm feeding power into this capacitor and charging it. And that's what charges the torch. The second thing is that once you've charged the torch, you release the button. Then the power should remain in the capacitor. There'll be some leakage, but it will remain there for a certain amount of time. The second part of the circuit, which I've done in blue, and this first part on this side is that all the wires are in yellow. So the second part of the circuit is button number 2, which is this one over here. And that is connected via a 100K resistor, which is this one here, into an LED. So that when you press this button on the right hand side, you're connecting this capacitor to the LED. And what that causes to happen is the LED will light up, albeit not very brightly and not for very long, but it will do it. We could have used a 1K resistor instead of the 100K resistor, but the problem with doing that is that the torch would only light for a very, very short period of time. So by making it 100K, we have a higher resistance, and therefore our LED will be turned on for longer. So to go over this again, and before we go and build the circuit, all of the things that are on this side use the yellow jumpers, and everything on this side uses the blue jumpers. And of course, anything that goes to ground uses green jumpers. So to summarize, we have 3 volts, comes along here, goes into the first switch, which is the charging switch. That then feeds into a 1K resistor, which is here, which comes back down to this header, and then it feeds back into the capacitor. So it's charging the capacitor. And then on this side, we have button 2, that feeds into a 100K resistor, which will then activate the LED. So lastly, we have this user block on the top right hand corner. Now if you notice, the columns going horizontally have letters A to J, and the rows have numbers 1 to 4. So if we look at the center part here, it is telling me that this is pin A1. So A1 is this one. So I want to connect pin 2 of the 1K resistor to pin A1 on the user block, and that's pin A1 too, A1 there. Then down here, my next one is I want to connect pin A2 to pin 1 of the capacitor. So pin A2 is this one, and so that goes to the capacitor. And then finally, pin A3, we want to connect that to pin 1 of the button, and pin A3 is here. So let's go ahead and build the circuit. Now, some of you would have noticed that when we were looking at the circuit, we only had the top and not the JackBord. And the reason I did that was that the JackBord really doesn't provide anything extra while we're building the circuit, and I think it just makes it visually a bit simpler. So the first thing we need to do is take a yellow jumper and go from here to button number 1. And then we're going to go from there into our 1K resistor, because remember, this is going to be the charging circuit. And then from the 1K resistor, we go down to the pin A1 on the first set of user pins. Now we want to go from there to our capacitor. So we're going to do that with a yellow jumper. And we go to our capacitor. So this is what holds the charge that operates the torch. And then finally, we need to go from the ground pin of that capacitor, we're going to go to a ground connection on the top. So the first part is the charging part of the circuit. So we go from 3 volts through the switch, around through the 1K resistor, down here to the user area, and back up to the capacitor, and then finally to ground. Now the reason we're using this user area down here is because we need to connect 3 pins together. Okay, now the next part of our circuit is going to be getting from the user area here, so that's our 3rd pin there, and we want to go to the 100K resistor. And we're using a 100K resistor because we don't want the torch to run out too quickly. Then we go from that 100K resistor along to pin 1 on button 2. And then we go from pin 2 of button 2 into our white LED. And then finally, we're going to go from the negative pin on the white LED down to ground. So this is our complete circuit. So this side is takes care of charging the capacitor so that it can run the torch, and this side here turns the torch on. So next, that's the circuit. So what we'll do is we will, now that we've built it, we'll attach it to the JackBord. So I'm going to connect the ground pin. Then I'll do the 3 volts. And finally, I will do the 5 volts. So the way we can test this is, of course, to turn on the JackBord. And that will give our circuit power. So now I'm going to push the charge button, which is the left one there. So that should be charging this capacitor. And now I am going to push the button to start the torch, which is this blue one. So watch the LED here. Oh, and it doesn't come on. Why doesn't it come on? What have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? Oh, it does come on. Okay, we're going to need to edit the middle of that. So now we're going to test it. So what we'll do is, let me go and turn the lights off. Right, so I've turned the lights off. So I'm going to push the left-hand button to charge the torch. So that's charging the capacitor. There we go. And now I'm going to turn the JackBord off. So the top has 0 power. And now I'm going to push the button, and you can see the light comes on. So it's the energy stored in this capacitor that's actually running our torch. And as you can see, it's still going faintly. And if I let the button off, it will turn off. And there it is, the torch operating. This first picture shows the charging side of the circuit. So look at this one and compare it with what you've got if you have any problems getting the torch working. This second picture shows the discharging side of the circuit. So those are the blue jumpers. And as you can see, the three of them, and compare this circuit with yours and make sure that the two match. This view shows the finished circuit from a slightly different angle. And once again, just compare it with yours and make sure that everything matches up okay. It doesn't matter if your jumper wires are not the same color as mine. The main thing is that they go to the correct place. This final image shows the finished circuits attached to the JackBord, and you can see along the bottom that we've got the ground 3 volts and 5 volt lines connected. Now that we've built the circuit, we're going to turn on the JackBord, and that will give us some power. I want to charge the torch. So to charge it, okay, first of all, if I press the button on the right hand side, the LED of the torch doesn't light because the capacitor is not charged yet, so there's no power there. Now to charge it, I push the left hand button and hold it down for about 10, maybe 20 seconds. And so I'm charging up the capacitor. Now, if I turn the JackBord off, there's now no power going to the top whatsoever. So the only power that the torch has is what's in that capacitor. So now if I push the button, you watch the LED. And there's the torch turning on. I turn it off, and then I can turn it on again. As you can see, it doesn't last very long, but what it is showing is how you can use the JackBord to charge a capacitor and then use the power in that capacitor at a later time. So something else you can experiment with is using a higher voltage, so using 5 volts instead of 3 volts to power the torch, and also change the value of the resistor that activates the torch. So try lower values or higher values. Lower values will make it go brighter, but it won't last as long, and bigger values will make it dimmer, but it will light for longer. For more information, visit jb.works.